The great hall of the Galactic Council was filled with fear. Representatives from 100 different worlds sat in their floating chairs, their strange faces showing worry and panic. The massive hologram in the center of the room displayed a map of the galaxy. 12 star systems were marked in red. These systems had fallen to the Vicari Dominion in just 6 months. High Arbiter Velix, an old amphibian with wet green skin and tired eyes, stood at the central platform. He had led the council for 200 years. He had seen wars before, but he had never seen anything like the Vicari. They were ruthless, they were fast, and they were winning. Our combined fleets have failed 3 times, Velix announced, his voice heavy. The Vicari adapt to every strategy we use. They learn our tactics and turn them against us. War, Admiral Thomas's, a tall reptilian with scales the color of dried blood, slammed his fist on his console. We need more ships. More soldiers. We must overwhelm them with numbers. We have sent numbers, another delegate said. They died. The hall fell into argument. Voices overlapped. Accusations flew. Nobody had answers. The Vicari were coming and the galaxy was not ready. Then the doors opened. A human walked in. The argument stopped. Every eye, every sensor, every tentacle turned toward the entrance. Humans were new to the galaxy. They had joined the Galactic Union only 3 years ago. Most species considered them primitive. Dangerous, yes, because they came from a Class 12 death world where everything tried to kill everything else. But also small, weak, unimportant. The human wore a simple gray uniform. He was not tall. His black hair was cut short, and his face carried a calm expression that seemed wrong for the situation. Behind him walked 3 others. A young woman with sharp eyes, a large man with arms like tree branches, and a smaller woman with glasses who looked more like a scientist than a soldier. Who allowed this? War Admiral Thomas's demanded. This is a closed session. The human smiled. Captain Park Tay, United Earthship Defiant. My shuttle had some navigation problems. We accidentally bypassed your security systems. All 17 of them. Very sorry about that. He did not look sorry. High Arbiter Velix raised a webbed hand to calm the room. Captain Park, humanity has not been invited to this discussion. Your species lacks the resources to contribute to this war. With respect, High Arbiter, that is exactly why I am here. Tay walked forward until he stood in the center of the room, the hologram glowing around him. You have big fleets, advanced technology, centuries of military tradition, and you are losing. Thomas's growled. You dare insult us? I am stating facts, Tay said. The Vicari have beaten you because you fight the way they expect. You are predictable. They study you, and then they destroy you. And what would humans do differently? An insectoid delegate asked. Her name was Kylie, and she had been assigned to monitor humanity. Since their arrival in the Union, she had filed many reports about human behavior. Most of them were marked concerning or requires further study. Tay looked at her. We would win. Laughter erupted from several delegates. War Admiral Thomas's made a sound like grinding rocks, which was his species' way of showing amusement. You have 3 ships, human. 3. The Vicari have hundreds. Numbers are not everything. Then what is? The young woman behind Tay stepped forward. Lieutenant Kim Hanna had spent 2 years studying alien psychology. She understood how other species thought. More importantly, she understood how they failed to think. Creativity, she said. Unpredictability. The willingness to do things that make no logical sense until suddenly they do. The council stared at her. Tay continued. Give us 1 system. Decora expanse. It is contested territory, not yet fully controlled by the Vicari. Give us 30 rotations. If we fail, humanity will accept permanent status as a protected species. We will never ask for military involvement again. And if you succeed? Velix asked. A permanent seat on this council. Full membership. Equal voice. The hall erupted again. Several delegates called the proposal absurd. Others demanded the humans be removed. But High Arbiter Velix remained silent. Studying the human captain with his ancient eyes, he had lived long enough to recognize something in those eyes. It was not arrogance. It was not foolishness. It was something else. Something that made him uncomfortable. It was certainty. The council will vote, Velix announced. The vote was quick. Most delegates agreed because they expected entertainment. A few agreed because they wanted humans to fail publicly. Only Ambassador Kylie voted against it, and when asked why, she simply said, "I have read their history. I am worried." Nobody listened to her. As the session ended, Captain Tay and his team walked toward the exit. Kylie caught up with them, her multiple legs clicking on the polished floor. "Captain Park," she said, "why are you smiling? You have just agreed to fight an impossible battle with almost no resources. If you lose, your species will be reduced to nothing." Tay stopped. He looked at her with that same calm expression. "Ambassador, do you know what Earth is like? I have read the surveys. High gravity, extreme weather, dangerous wildlife, toxic plants. Your own star gives you cancer." "Exactly." Tay smiled wider. "Everything on our planet wants to kill us. The animals, the plants, the weather, even the tiny things you cannot see. We have been fighting for survival since before we could walk upright. We did not become the dominant species on our world because we were the strongest or the fastest. Then how?" The large man behind Tay, Sergeant Yunde, laughed. It was a warm sound, surprisingly gentle for someone his size. Tay answered, "We got creative. We learned that when you cannot win by the rules, you change the rules. When the enemy expects you to run, you attack. When they expect you to attack, you make friends with their food supply. When nothing makes sense, you make even less sense until your enemy gives up trying to understand you." He turned and walked away. His team followed. Ambassador Kylie stood alone in the hallway, her antennae twitching with stress. She had a bad feeling about this. Humans were strange. Humans were unpredictable. And now they had permission to be both of those things in an active war zone. She began composing her resignation letter. Then she deleted it. Someone had to watch what happened next, even if it terrified her. The Cora Expanse was a graveyard of broken ships and burning stations. 3 planets orbited a dying orange star. The Vicari had claimed this system 2 months ago, and they had fortified it well. 47 warships patrolled the area. Ground troops occupied the main stations. Defense platforms floated in perfect formation around every strategic point. When the 3 human ships arrived, the Vicari commander laughed. 3 vessels, he reported to his superiors. The weak species has sent 3 vessels against our fleet. This will not take long. But the humans did not attack. Captain Parkte sat in his command chair aboard the UES Defiant, drinking tea and watching the sensor display. Lieutenant Kim Hanna stood beside him, studying every piece of data they could gather about the enemy. "They are waiting for us to do something stupid," Hanna said. "Good," Tay replied. "Let them wait." For 5 rotations, the humans did nothing military. They kept their ships at a safe distance. They ran basic patrols. They sent polite greeting messages to the Vicari fleet every morning. The messages said things like, "Good morning. We hope you are well, and the stars look beautiful today." The Vicari did not know how to respond on the 3rd rotation. The humans released thousands of small drones into space. The drones spread out across the system, floating silently. They did not attack. They did not scan. They just existed. "What are those?" The Vicari commander demanded. His officers checked their sensors. "Unknown purpose. They appear to be doing nothing. Destroy them." "Sir, there are too many. It would waste ammunition." The commander growled, but let the drones float. They were probably broken. Humans were known for inferior technology. On the 4th rotation, Dr. Cha Nari finished her analysis of Vicari psychology. She gathered the command team in the small meeting room of the Defiant. Charts and images covered the walls. "The Vicari evolved as apex predators," she explained. On their homeworld, nothing hunted them. They were always the hunters. This shaped their entire psychology. They do not understand prey that approaches them. They do not understand weakness that does not flee. Sergeant Yunde scratched his chin. So if we run, they chase. But if we walk toward them, they become confused, Nari said. Their instincts tell them something is wrong. Prey does not approach predators unless it has a secret weapon, unless it is a trap. Hannah smiled. So we make them think everything is a trap, even when it is not. Especially when it is not, Tay agreed, on the 6th rotation. Operation Confuse and Concern began. Sergeant Yunde led a team of 12 soldiers in a small shuttle. They approached a Vicari supply station on the edge of the system. The station held food, ammunition, and spare parts for the fleet. It was guarded by 50 Vicari soldiers. The humans did not attack the station. They landed quietly near a maintenance hatch. They bypassed the security locks. They entered the station without being seen, and then they rearranged the furniture. Every chair was moved 2 feet to the left. Every table was turned to face a different direction. Personal items were placed in wrong lockers. Food containers were organized by color instead of type. And in the commander's private quarters, Day left a handwritten note in perfect Vicari script. The note said, "We were here. Sleep well." The team left without firing a single shot. When the Vicari garrison woke up the next morning, they found their world slightly wrong. At first, they thought they were imagining things. Then they found the note. The station commander screamed for 3 hours. He sent emergency messages to the main fleet. He demanded reinforcements. He reported that human infiltrators had penetrated his security and could return at any time. 20. Vicari warships left their patrol positions to guard a supply station. That was never in danger. Back on the Defiant, the human team celebrated with cheap beer and bad jokes. Ambassador Kylie watched from a corner, her compound eyes wide with disbelief. "You move their furniture," she said. "Yes," Day replied, grinning. "Why?" "Because now they will never feel safe again. Every time something seems slightly wrong, they will wonder if we were there. Every shadow will be suspicious. Every strange sound will be a threat." Killy's antennae drooped. "That is deeply cruel." "No," Hannah said gently. "Cruel would be killing them. We did not hurt anyone. We just made them doubt themselves." On the 8th rotation, the humans played music. Every drone they had released began broadcasting different audio. Some played classical symphonies. Some played heavy metal. Some played children's songs. Some played what humans called podcasts, which seemed to be people talking about nothing important for very long times. The Vicari communication systems filled with noise. Filters could block some of it, but new frequencies kept appearing. The sounds were not harmful. They were just annoying. Endlessly, impossibly annoying. What is the purpose of this? The Vicari commander screamed at his officers. Nobody had an answer. Back at the Galactic Council, War Admiral Thomases watched the reports with growing frustration. The humans had been in the system for 10 rotations. They had not destroyed a single enemy ship. They had not captured any territory. All they had done was move furniture, release useless drones, and play music. "This is not war," Thomases declared. "This is nonsense." High Arbiter Velik said nothing. He was watching the other reports. The ones that showed Vicari ships leaving their positions to guard random targets. The ones that showed enemy communications becoming chaotic. The ones that showed Vicari commanders sending increasingly frantic messages to their superiors. "Perhaps," Velik said quietly. "That is the point." On the 12th rotation, the Vicari made their first mistake. A patrol ship, its crew exhausted from constant alerts and strange noises, strayed too close to an asteroid field. The humans had hidden a single torpedo there. Not enough to destroy the ship. Just enough to damage its engines. The damaged ship drifted. Its crew called for help. 3 more ships came to assist. While they were busy, Sergeant Day's team visited another station. This time, they did not rearrange furniture. They painted flowers on the walls. Bright, colorful flowers with a small message beneath each one. From Earth with love. The Vicari commander received the report and did not speak for an entire day. His officers thought he might have broken. Ambassador Kylie sent her daily report to the council. Her hands trembled as she typed. "The humans are not fighting a war," she wrote. "They are fighting minds. They attack not bodies but thoughts. They break not ships but spirits. I do not understand their methods, but I am beginning to understand their purpose." She paused before adding the final line. "I am afraid they might actually win." By the 15th rotation, the Vicari commanders had stopped sleeping properly. Reports from the core expanse made no sense. The humans had 3 ships, and yet they were everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Captain Park. Tay called his next operation the Polite Surrender. It began with a formal broadcast to the entire Vicari fleet. Tay appeared on screen wearing his best uniform. His face was serious. His voice was calm and respectful. "Attention Vicari forces," he announced. "This is Captain Park Tay of the United Earthship Defiant. After careful consideration, I have decided to surrender my vessel to your fleet. I request that your commanding officer board my ship personally to accept our formal capitulation. We will power down all weapons and wait." The Vicari commander could not believe his ears. He checked the sensors. The Defiant had indeed powered down its weapons. It was drifting slowly toward the Vicari flagship, completely defenseless. "It is a trick," one of his officers said. "Obviously it is a trick," the commander agreed. "But what kind of trick? If we refuse, we look afraid of 3 humans. If we accept, we might walk into a trap." He thought for a long time. Finally, he decided that his honor demanded action. He would board the human ship himself with 100 soldiers. If it was a trap, he would fight his way out. If it was not, he would have captured the human leader personally. His shuttle docked with the Defiant. The airlock opened. 100 Vicari soldiers rushed in, weapons ready. They found Captain Tay sitting alone at a small table. 2 cups of tea waited on the surface. The ship was empty except for him. "Welcome aboard," Tay said pleasantly. "Please sit. The tea is quite good." The commander was confused. "Where is your crew?" "They took the escape pods about an hour ago." "Would you like sugar with your tea?" "This is—" "You surrendered an empty ship?" "I surrendered my ship," Tay corrected. "I never said anyone would be on it. Now, I believe we should discuss terms. These talks may take some time. Please, make yourself comfortable." The commander wanted to kill the human right there, but something stopped him. Killing an enemy who had surrendered would be dishonorable. And the human had surrendered technically, legally, completely for 4 hours, Captain Tay talked. He discussed the weather on Earth. He explained the rules of a game called baseball. He asked about Vicari family traditions. He complimented the commander's scales. He wondered aloud if Vicari children had pets. The commander could not leave. His honor bound him to complete the surrender ceremony. And Tay kept finding new topics to discuss. Meanwhile, the Vicari fleet held position. They could not fire on a ship their commander was aboard. They could not leave their posts while the ceremony was ongoing. For 4 hours, 47 warships did absolutely nothing. Lieutenant Kim Hanna used those 4 hours well. The 2 remaining human ships struck 3 undefended outposts. They destroyed communication relays, supply depots, and sensor stations. By the time the surrender ceremony ended, the Vicari had lost a quarter of their support infrastructure. The commander returned to his flagship shaking with rage. But he could not report what had happened. How could he explain that he had been defeated by tea and conversation? The next operation was called Aggressive Friendship. Sergeant Yunde captured a patrol squad of 6 Vicari soldiers. This was not difficult. The soldiers were exhausted, paranoid, and distracted by the constant music from the drones. They barely resisted. Day brought them to a cargo bay on the Defiant. But instead of cells, he found a party. There was food. Human food, but prepared to be safe for Vicari digestion. There was music, soft and pleasant. There were decorations. And there were humans who smiled and welcomed the prisoners like old friends. What is happening? One Vicari soldier asked, his eyes wide. "We are having a celebration," they explained. "You have been working very hard. You deserve a break." For 6 hours the humans treated their prisoners with kindness. They gave them food. They played games. They told jokes, some of which were actually funny. They asked about the soldiers' homes, their families, their dreams. Then they let them go. The 6 soldiers returned to their fleet carrying gifts. Small items from Earth, snacks, handwritten notes that said things like, "You seem nice and take care of yourself." Vicari High Command did not know what to do. Were the soldiers spies now? Had they been poisoned? Brainwashed? The commanders could not take the risk. They ordered the 6 soldiers executed for suspected psychological contamination. When Captain Tay heard about the executions, his face became sad. "I was afraid of that," he said quietly. "You knew they would be killed?" Ambassador Kylie asked, horrified. "I hoped they would not be. But yes, I knew it was possible." The Vicari leadership does not understand kindness. They see it as weakness or manipulation. By being kind to their soldiers, we force them to choose between trusting their own people and maintaining control. They chose control. They always do. And now every Vicari soldier knows what their leaders did. They know that being captured by humans means parties and gifts. They know that returning home means death. Tay looked at Kylie with tired eyes. "We did not break their army with weapons. We broke it with the truth about their own commanders." The final operation of this phase was simpler. The Defiant, fully crewed again, charged directly at the Vicari flagship at maximum speed. Every alarm in the Vicari fleet screamed warnings. Every weapon locked onto the incoming ship. Then, at the last moment, the Defiant turned. It scraped along the hull of the flagship, close enough to leave marks but not close enough to cause damage. On the underside of the Defiant, painted in bright letters, were 2 words in Vicari script: "Too slow." The flagship's crew saw the words as the human ship passed. So did the crews of every nearby vessel. Within hours, the entire fleet knew. The Vicari commander demanded an emergency meeting with the Galactic Council. His transmission was broadcast to all member worlds. "These humans are not fighting a war," he shouted, his scales flushed with anger. "They are committing organized insanity. They surrender ships with no one on them. They throw parties for prisoners. They write insults on our hulls. This is not combat. This is madness." War Admiral Thomas's, watching from the council chambers, had to agree. They have lost their minds. But High Arbiter Velix was reading the casualty reports. Vicari losses were mounting. Not from direct combat, but from accidents caused by exhausted crews. From friendly fire incidents during panic responses. From soldiers who hesitated at critical moments because they were not sure if anything was real anymore. The humans had fired fewer than 20 weapons in 15 rotations. And yet the Vicari were falling apart. Dr. Chanari explained it to Ambassador Kylie over dinner that night. On Earth there is a small animal called a honey badger. It is not large. It is not fast. But it will attack elephants. It will fight lions. Not because it can win, because it does not care. It refuses to accept that it should lose. Kylie stared at her food. And that works? Often enough. The larger animal becomes confused. It expects the smaller one to run. When the small one attacks instead, the large one does not know what to do. Sometimes it retreats. Sometimes it hesitates long enough for the small one to win. Humans learn this from a small angry animal? Nari smiled. Humans learn this from everything. Every creature on our world that survived did so by being stubborn, creative, or crazy. Usually all 3. Kylie pushed her plate away. She was no longer hungry. The reports continued to arrive at the council. The Vicari were requesting reinforcements. They were demanding new strategies. They were asking questions that no one could answer. How do you fight an enemy that does not fight back the way you expect? How do you predict someone who does not follow logic? How do you defeat madness? The Galactic Council had no answers. They could only watch and wonder what the humans would do next. They did not have to wait long. The Vicari Dominion had seen enough. Supreme Fang Rethik, one of their greatest military leaders, took personal command of the situation. He gathered 72 warships from 3 different sectors. This was not a patrol fleet. This was an extermination force. "We will crush them with overwhelming power," Rethik announced to his officers. "No more games. No more tricks. We will surround them, destroy them, and end this embarrassment." His fleet jumped into the Kora expanse on the 20th rotation. The 72 ships spread out in a perfect sphere around the 3 human vessels. There was no escape. No place to hide? The humans were completely trapped. Rethik broadcast his victory declaration to the entire galaxy. "Attention all species. Witness the end of human arrogance. Their tricks have failed. Their madness has run its course. In moments I will give the order, and these pests will be removed from existence." Captain Park Tae appeared on the communication screen. He was sitting in his command chair, drinking tea as usual. Behind him, his crew worked calmly at their stations. Nobody looked afraid. "Supreme Fang Rethik," Tae said politely. "Thank you for coming. You brought exactly the right number." Rethik narrowed his eyes. "The right number for what?" Tae smiled and ended the transmission. Lieutenant Kim Hanna began operation. Controlled chaos. The thousands of drones that had been floating silently throughout the system suddenly came alive. But they were not weapons. They were speakers. Every single drone began playing different sounds at maximum volume. Some played human music. Loud, fast, aggressive music with screaming voices and crashing instruments. Others played soft, gentle songs meant for children. Others played classical compositions with hundreds of instruments. Others played people talking, laughing, arguing, crying. The Vicari communication systems exploded with noise. Every channel, every frequency, every method of talking to each other filled with chaos. Officers screamed orders that nobody could hear. Ships tried to coordinate but could not understand each other. In the confusion, the 3 human ships began to move. They did not retreat. They did not try to escape. They flew directly into the Vicari formation at speeds that should have been suicide. The Defiant weaved between enemy ships, so close that crews could see each other through windows. The 2 smaller ships followed different paths, crossing and recrossing the battlefield in patterns that made no sense. The Vicari could not fire. Every shot they took risked hitting their own vessels. The humans used the enemy fleet as shields, always keeping a Vicari ship between themselves and any weapon. "What are they doing?" Rethik screamed. Nobody answered. Nobody could hear him over the noise. On the main Vicari command station, alarms suddenly went off. Intruders had been detected in the lower levels. Security teams rushed to respond. They found the garbage disposal system had been opened from the outside. Sergeant Yunde climbed out of a waste container, covered in things he did not want to think about. Behind him came 50 human soldiers, all equally dirty and all grinning like maniacs. "They never guard the trash," Day said happily. "The humans did not try to capture the station. They did not try to hold any position. They ran through the corridors like chaos itself, setting off alarms, breaking random equipment, and painting messages on walls. Security teams chased them, but the humans knew the layout better than they did. They had studied the station plans for weeks. Every time the Vicari thought they had cornered the humans found another way out. Through vents. Through maintenance tunnels. Through doors that should have been locked but somehow were not. Back in space, the battle continued. The human ships kept dancing through the enemy fleet, too fast and too close to hit safely. Vicari gunners hesitated. Vicari pilots flinched. Nobody wanted to be the one who accidentally destroyed one of their own ships. Then Lieutenant Hanna broadcast a new message. It went to every Vicari ship on an encrypted channel that should have been secure. It said, "Your Supreme Fang has ordered a full retreat. This is not a trick. All ships withdraw immediately." Half the Vicari fleet received the message. Half of those who received it believed it might be real. A dozen ships hesitated. 3 ships actually began to retreat. "Stop!" Rethik screamed. "I gave no such order." Hold your positions. But in the noise and confusion, his voice was lost. Some ships stayed. Some ships moved. The perfect sphere broke into chaos. The humans struck. In the moment of confusion, the 3 human ships fired precisely targeted weapons at 9 key vessels. Not kill shots? Disabling shots. Engines failed. Weapons went offline. Navigation systems crashed. 9 Vicari ships drifted helplessly. 9 more ships broke formation to help them. The sphere collapsed entirely. On the command station, Sergeant Day reached the main control room. He did not try to take it. He just wanted to deliver a message. He fought his way to the main display screen, shot the guards trying to stop him, and broadcast a single image to every screen on the station. It was a photograph of a human child giving a thumbs up and smiling. Below the image were words in Vicari script. Good luck. Then Day and his team disappeared into the maintenance tunnels again. Supreme Fang Rethik stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his fleet fall apart. The music had not stopped. His ships could not coordinate. His soldiers were chasing ghosts on his stations. And somewhere out there, 3 tiny human ships were still dancing through his formation. Untouchable. The lights on his bridge flickered once, twice, then they began to flash in rhythm with the human music coming through the speakers. Someone had hacked his flagship's power systems. Rethik looked at the lights. He looked at the chaos on his screens. He listened to the impossible noise filling his ears. And something inside him broke. Enough, he whispered. Then he said it again, louder. Inanoga. He opened a channel to the human ship. His hands were shaking. His voice cracked as he spoke. Captain Park, I surrender. I surrender the Cora expanse. Take it, take all of it, just ... Make it stop. The music stopped, the lights stopped flickering, the drones went silent. Captain Tay appeared on the screen. He looked exactly the same as he had at the beginning, calm, polite, drinking tea. Thank you, Supreme Fang Rethik, Tay said. Your surrender is accepted. Please instruct your ships to power down weapons and await further instructions. Medical teams will be sent to assist any injured personnel. Rethik gave the orders. His fleet obeyed. 72 warships, the pride of the Vicari Dominion, surrendered to 3 human vessels. In the Galactic Council chambers, complete silence filled the room. High Arbiter Velix stared at the screens showing the Vicari fleet powering down. War Admiral Thomas's had not moved in several minutes. His mouth hung open. His scales had turned pale. Ambassador Tylee sat in her chair, her multiple legs pulled close to her body, her antennae completely flat against her head. They won, she whispered. They actually won. Nobody responded. Nobody knew what to say. On the Defiant, the crew finally allowed themselves to cheer. Lieutenant Hannah leaned back in her chair, exhausted but smiling. Dr. Neri was already organizing medical supplies for the Vicari wounded. Sergeant Day reported in from the station, his team tired but unharmed. Captain Tay finished his tea and set down the cup. Good work, everyone, he said simply. Let us clean up. The Cora expanse belonged to humanity now. Not because they had the biggest fleet, not because they had the best weapons, but because they had done something the galaxy had never seen before. They had won a war by being absolutely, completely, beautifully insane, and the galaxy would never forget it. The Galactic Council chambers had never been so full. Representatives from every member world attended in person. Those who could not come watched through secure broadcasts. This was history. Everyone wanted to witness it. Captain Parkte stood at the central platform, the same spot where he had made his impossible bet 23 rotations ago. He wore the same simple uniform. He carried the same calm expression. The only difference was a small bandage on his left hand, a minor injury from the final battle. Behind him stood his team. Lieutenant Kim Hanna, who had broken an enemy fleet with noise and lies. Sergeant Yunde, who had invaded a fortress through garbage. Dr. Shawnari, who had healed both human and Vicari wounded without distinction. High Arbiter Velix called the session to order. His voice was steady, but his hands shook slightly as he held his ceremonial staff. "Captain Park Tay," he began, "you were given the contested Korra expanse and 30 rotations to achieve victory. Please present your final report." Tay nodded and activated the central display. Numbers and images appeared in the air around him. The Korra expanse has been fully liberated in 23 rotations, 7 ahead of schedule. The Vicari occupation force of 72 warships has surrendered. All enemy ground installations have been secured. He paused, letting the council absorb the basic facts before continuing. Human casualties: 4 soldiers injured, 0 deaths. Vicari casualties: 847 captured, 12 dead. Of those 12 deaths, 9 resulted from friendly fire during confusion and 3 from accidents. No Vicari soldier was directly killed by human action. The council murmured. War Admiral Thomases leaned forward, his scales shifting colors in disbelief. Property damage to the system: minimal. All planets remain habitable. All civilian infrastructure remains functional. The Vicari military infrastructure has been disabled but not destroyed and can be repurposed for defensive use. Tay closed the display. "That concludes my report." Silence held the chamber. Then War Admiral Thomases stood. His legs seemed unsteady as he walked to a speaking platform. He looked older than he had 3 weeks ago, tired in a way that sleep could not fix. "I must speak," Thomases said. His voice, usually so strong and commanding, came out rough. "I have served the Galactic Union's military for 170 years. I have fought in 9 major wars. I have studied every battle tactic known to our civilization." He looked directly at Captain Tay. "I do not understand what you did. Every tactical model we possess assumes rational actors pursuing victory through established methods. You pursued ... amusement, confusion, psychological collapse. You made our enemy defeat themselves." Thomases paused, gathering himself. "I called your methods madness. I was wrong. It was something more dangerous than madness. It was creativity without limits, survival instinct without rules." His voice dropped to almost a whisper. "I am grateful you are not our enemy." He returned to his seat without another word. "High Arbiter?" Velix stepped down from his platform and approached Captain Tay directly. This was unusual. The High Arbiter rarely left his position during formal sessions. But these were not usual times. "Captain Park," Velix said, his ancient eyes studying the human's face, "I must ask you something." "Not for the council?" "For myself, of course, High Arbiter." "Why do you fight like this? You had 3 ships against dozens. You had every reason to be afraid. You had every reason to use conventional methods, to follow the patterns that have governed galactic warfare for millennia." Velix's voice cracked slightly. "Why did you choose chaos?" Tay considered the question carefully before answering. "On Earth, losing is not permanent. You lose a fight, you heal and try again. You lose a battle, you retreat and regroup. Even death is not always the end, because others continue what you started." He looked around the chamber at the alien faces watching him. "But giving up is permanent. The moment you accept that something cannot be done, it becomes impossible. The moment you follow the rules someone else created, you have already lost because they made those rules to benefit themselves." Tay smiled softly. "Humans have never been the strongest species on our world. We were not the fastest. We had no natural weapons, no armor, no venom. Everything wanted to kill us, and we had no advantages except one." "What advantage?" Velix asked. "We refused to accept the situation. When the rules said we should die, we changed the rules. When predators chased us, we learned to chase them back. When the world tried to break us, we made it interesting instead." Tay's smile widened. "The Vicari expected us to fight their way. We refused. We fought our way. And our way is simple. Never give up, always adapt, and make even your worst moments something worth telling stories about." Velix was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, tears began to form in his ancient eyes. They rolled down his green skin and dripped onto the polished floor. "I have led this council for 200 years, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I have seen species rise and fall. I have watched empires conquer and crumble. I thought I understood how the galaxy worked. He wiped his eyes with a webbed hand. I was wrong. You have shown me something I never expected to see. Hope that refuses to die even when it should. He turned and walked back to his platform. His steps were slow, but somehow lighter than before. The vote for humanity's permanent council seat was unanimous. Even those who had laughed at the bet now voted in favor. They did not vote because they wanted to. They voted because they understood that refusing was no longer an option. Humanity had earned its place. Not with power, but with something more valuable. Something the galaxy had lost somewhere along the way. The will to survive. No matter what it took. After the session ended, Ambassador Kylie found the human team preparing to return to their ship. She approached hesitantly, her legs clicking on the floor. Captain Park, she said, I have been assigned as humanity's permanent liaison to the Council. Apparently, surviving 3 weeks of observing your species qualifies me as an expert. Tay laughed. Ambassador Kylie, I hope we did not cause you too much stress. My stress levels exceeded healthy limits on the second rotation and never recovered. She paused. But I am glad. I would rather understand humans than remain ignorant. Even if understanding brings new concerns. What concerns you now? Killy's antennae twitched. The Vicari Dominion has issued an official statement. They have declared human space not worth the psychological damage, and have withdrawn from 3 additional systems to create distance between their territory and yours. Hannah snorted. They are afraid of us. Yes, Kylie agreed. And that frightens me more than the war did. You have not just defeated an enemy. You have become something the galaxy does not know how to handle. Other species will react. Some will try to befriend you. Some will try to contain you. Some will try to learn from you. Her compound eyes focused on Tay. What will you do? Tay thought about the question. He looked at his team. Hana, brilliant and dangerous. Day, cheerful and unstoppable. Nari, kind and fierce. They had come so far with so little. They had shown the galaxy something new. We will do what we have always done, Tay said finally. Survive, adapt, make friends where we can. Confuse enemies until they become friends or leave us alone. He smiled. And when the galaxy expects us to do something, we will do something else. Kylie made a sound that might have been a laugh or a groan. I feared you would say something like that. You should take a vacation, Ambassador. You have earned it. Vacations require relaxation. I do not think I will relax again as long as I work with humans. Tay extended his hand. Kylie looked at it uncertainly. Human handshakes were strange to her. But she reached out with one of her limbs and carefully grasped his fingers. Welcome to the team, Tay said. In the council chambers, High Arbiter Velix stood alone. The representatives had left. The platforms were empty. Only the great holographic map of the galaxy remained, slowly rotating in the dim light. Velix stared at the small blue dot marking Earth. Such a tiny world. Such a dangerous species. Tears still wet his face, but he was not sad. He was something else entirely. Something he had not felt in centuries. He was hopeful the galaxy would never be the same. New challenges would come. New conflicts would arise. But now there was something different in the universe. A species that refused to accept impossible odds. A people who turned desperation into creativity and fear into determination. The Galactic Council had ruled for millennia by maintaining balance, by keeping everything predictable and controlled. Humanity had shattered that approach in 23 rotations, and somehow, Velix could not bring himself to be upset about it. He wiped his eyes one last time and left the chamber. Behind him, the map continued to rotate, showing a galaxy forever changed by 3 ships, a handful of soldiers, and a people who simply refused to give up. Somewhere out there, the UES Defiant was flying home. Its crew was celebrating with bad beer and good stories. Lieutenant Hannah was already planning new tactics. Sergeant Day was cleaning garbage smell from his armor. Dr. Nari was writing reports about Vicari psychology, and Captain Park Tay was drinking tea, watching the stars pass by, and wondering what impossible thing they would do next. The galaxy had wanted to see what humans could do. Now, they knew, and they would never stop wondering what came next.